Be me, 18, at my grandparents' cabin in the middle of butt-fuck nowhere, staying alone until family arrives on the afternoon of the next day. Middle of winter, blizzard outside, several feet of snow, minus 30 degrees Celsius. Oh yeah, I'm fucking Canadian, by the way. Balls freezing off.png. At night, a huge blizzard blows in. Outside is so dark it looks like a void. Thought of nothing but empty frozen forest for miles outside that window. It unsettles me, so I close the blinds. Blinds are poorly fitted to the windows, so no matter where I pull them, there's always a small gap. Oh well, sit on the sofa by the window reading and trying to forget about how isolated I am, and how unsettling the gap is between the curtains. Fall asleep on the sofa, book in hand. Wake up in the morning, dim light pouring in through the window. Been blizzarding on and off all night. Open blinds again, more comfortable since it's day. Can't see footprints in the front yard. Fuck is this shit.png? Go outside expected to see that they're moose or deer. Human tracks. Bare feet. No shoes. Tracks started to fill from snow and probably happened sometime in the night. Tracks lead right up to my window, at the gap in the blinds, looking in. Tracks don't lead away from the house. The other end of the tracks start in the middle of the fucking field. Like this guy appeared out of nowhere. To this day, I don't know how those tracks got there. But the nearest neighbor is nearly 2 kilometers down the road. It was minus 30 out with a few feet of snow. Anyone going around barefoot would start losing toes just after a few minutes of being out there. I don't go to that cabin alone anymore. Be me, early teens. Out on a camping trip. I remember the total amount of people to this day. 6. Everyone here is having a good time. I'm in charge of keeping the fire going. Every 2 hours or so, I go and get firewood. My cousin, let's call him James, and I go for the next run. James keeps going on about how great this year is and such. I just keep nodding and shrugging it off. He suddenly goes silent. I turn to him, and his face is white. Also, I should mention, James never stops talking for any reason at all. He would always have something to say, no matter what. He sees a carcass of a deer, with its side torn out. I tell him, "Man up, there's gonna be a lot more of them with all this wildlife in the area." After the deer carcass smell goes away and James isn't scared anymore, we keep walking. Another faint smell of another dead deer carcass, mixed with what seems to be spoiled milk, fills the air. James starts gagging again. James wants to go back. I tell him it's not much further to the stockpile of wood. We'll get some and we'll go. The smell increases, and James can't go on. He stays right near the area where the trail breaks. Alright, bye cunt.gif. I keep chugging up the trail for the wood. See a few deer here and there. Hear some yelling and such ahead. Fuck me.jpg. Dash ahead to the noise. See this younger kid and this larger figure. The kid is fucking screaming his face off. The figure turns to me, and with these cold, cold yellow eyes, just opens his mouth and walks towards me. The stench at this point was unbearable. It keeps growing until I can't stand it, and I vomit. The creature claws at the kid and he falls to the ground, only to slowly crawl away. Nope.jpg. I pick up the small cutting axe that I brought and chuck it at the creature. I hit its back, runs off. This little kid looked to be around 8 to 9 at most. I'm just stunned on what just happened. I run to the kid and help him up. He's trembling. Turns out, after calming him down, he was camping relatively near us. Take him with me. Then, a thought comes into my head. James. I book it down to the trail to find him there, all peachy and cheery. But when I ask him questions, nothing comes out. He seems like he's in pain, or just zoned out. Kid and I are carrying the conversation back to the site. My dad asks where we've been for the past hour, and who the kid is. I just look at him and slowly shake my head. And that ends the tale of how I never want to go camping, or into any kind of woods. Also, this is what it looked like, only like 5 feet taller. Excuse my paint skills. Not supernatural, but still, I was 18, living on my own, in a bad neighborhood, smoking cigarette from my window on the 4th floor, about 2 in the morning. I hear a girl crying and being dragged by her hand by a man. She's about 8. She keeps yelling for her dad. It doesn't faze me. The neighborhood was bad and plenty of people abused their kids. The guy keeps pulling on her arm to follow him. He is audibly very angry, yelling back at the girl to shut up. They enter an apartment building, almost parallel to mine. As soon as they enter the building, the girl starts screaming very loudly. I still don't think anything of it. 2 days later, I come home, and police are everywhere. Turns out, the man wasn't her father. He assaulted and killed her. The landlord got bothered by the smell and walked into her dismembered body. B20, helping stepdad install new wood stove in basement. Clear all the basement crap out of the way. Working on the west wall. Only different part of foundation. Working, chat about what it could be. Stepdad's the believes what he sees type. Get back to work in silence for a while. Both look up at odd noise. Scratching and scraping. Too loud and heavy to be rodents. Stepdad asks what's going on. Only lives with us a short while so far. Shrug, watching the brick part of wall. Loud snapping sound, almost a snap pop, followed by the sound of something large, tumbling along the ground. Huge bang. Dust jumps off brick part of foundation. Dead silence. Stepdad staring agape at wall. Then, to me. I'm shaken. I've seen and heard lots of stuff before, but not this. Pick up wrench and tap on wall. Soft moaning, and then footsteps answer. Icy cold sweat, feeling of absolute dread and horror. Tell stepdad we have to go. He doesn't think twice. Nope the fuck upstairs. Decides to tend garden to calm down. Are as far away from the houses as we can be within property boundary. Pale as fuck and absolutely silent. We just stand on the other side of the yard till more people come home. Okay, X, I'm gonna post a weird/curious one that my grandma told me. She heard this as a kid. Several decades ago, can't place the right time, but more than 70 years for sure. Back then, my town was a tiny village composed mostly of farms. My grandmother lived with her family. Her grandmother lived alone on a thatched house, about 10-centimeter gap under the only door. Wood lock was all that kept it closed at night. This one time, everyone got scared because her grandmother didn't show up in 3 days. People went to look for her thinking she might be sick or dead. She was locked inside her tiny house, a huge gaping hole in the lower part of the door. She looked terrified, wouldn't say a single word. She was brought to my grandmother's home to be taken care of. Another 2 weeks without uttering a single word. Finally, starts talking. Adults send all the kids away. It's obvious that some really serious shit went down. My grandma, being the rebellious kid she was, hid outside to listen. Apparently, her grandmother woke up in the middle of the night from a loud noise. Got scared as fuck as a huge black cat came running from the gap under the door, jumped over her, and through the window. Next thing she knows, there's something slamming hard against the door. By then, she was about to jump through the window too, when she saw a huge tongue come from under the door, grab the underside of it, and pull a good chunk of wood from it. She froze in place and just watched in terror. The huge tongue came in several fast movements and destroyed parts of the door, till the hole was huge. The tongue stopped, and then, I kid you not, a fucking black coffin came hovering through the hole. It flew over her and through the window, in the same direction as the cat. She thought it was a ghost or the devil chasing after the cat. The family called a priest to bless the living shit out of everything and everyone in the farm and her house. She never went back to live alone. B25, living alone in a kinda shitty house in a bad neighborhood because I can't afford anything better and won't live with roommates. Wake up close to 4 a.m. Hear a woman screaming outside. Look out window. See nothing. Screaming quiets and hear the faint sound of wood scraping across pavement. Think maybe some girl was getting attacked out there. Grab a golf club that I keep in my room for protection and a flashlight. Go outside. Anybody out here? Walk around backyard. See nothing. Still hear faint noise of wood scraping. Walk back to front yard. See something in the shadows near my neighbor's patio. Shine my light on it. What the fuck? It's a nude black woman's torso with freakishly long arms, facing away from me. Long, dirty hair, about 4 feet tall. Look down. Her low body is some kind of flat-bottomed wooden thing, like she has a boat for legs. She turns her head towards me. Her eyes are empty sockets, and she has no nose. Run the fuck back inside. Hear her scream at me, ear-rapingly shrill. Call the cops, tell them there's a crazy woman outside my neighbor's house. Leave out the part about her having a boat thing for legs. Dispatcher man tells me cops will be there to investigate. They never show up because it's a bad part of town, and they have better things to do. Stay up all night with golf club in hand, wishing I owned a gun. Hear wooden scraping for about an hour later. Stops close to dawn. Ask neighbor about it the next day. He gets really anxious and sweaty. Denies knowing what I'm talking about. There was no fucking way he didn't see it. I think maybe he saw it too, but was so freaked out, he doesn't want to believe it. Used to live in a busy apartment complex in Sao Paulo. It's not like American apartments. It's literally 40 stories, with each floor having about 25 apartments. Mostly college-aged people or young adults with family. I go to work after school on Fridays, so I come home really late, around 1 in the morning every Friday. I live on the 11th floor, so I ring the elevator. The elevator comes eventually, makes its way down, and the door opens. I walk in. The elevator traffic is usually busy at night anyway, so I didn't mind the man who was in the elevator, dressed to conceal himself. He had donned a ski mask and had black gloves. It's just him and I. As we're going up, I notice he has a knife in his hand that is dripping what looks like blood. There's a small puddle by his side. I ignore this out of fear and quickly exit the elevator once my floor was reached, and I quickly go into my place and lock the door. The news reveals a murder had occurred that day. I didn't directly go to the police as investigations are inconvenient in Brazil, and I can't miss work days. A police officer comes and knocks on my door the following Tuesday and asks if I've seen anything to help the investigation. I tell him, no, I didn't see anything. He thanks me for my time and takes off. A week later, they televised the suspect that had been caught. It was a police officer.